Sometimes the loudest screams are the ones that come in silence. You think they've moved on, right? They act like nothing touches them, like your absence is just background noise in their highlight reel. But here's the truth. If you notice this, if you're paying real attention, you'll see it. They're still emotionally attached, even if they'd rather set themselves on fire than admit it. Before we dive in, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because what we're about to uncover will flip the script on everything you thought you knew about emotional detachment. And trust me, this one's for the folks who feel the pull, even in the silence. Hey folks, imagine this. Imagine someone lighting a candle in a pitch-black room and walking away. The flame still flickers, still glows, still lights up the darkness, long after their footsteps have vanished. That's what emotional attachment looks like. They might have walked away, but the flame, it's still burning quietly behind the mask of indifference. You see, my friends, the biggest lie we're told is that silence means closure. That if someone isn't texting, isn't calling, isn't posting about you, they've healed. But that's not truth. That's emotional laziness disguised as strength. Real detachment. It's not performative. It's not loud. It doesn't need validation. It moves on without needing a front-row audience. But when they're still attached, oh, you'll feel it. Not in the words, but in the gaps between them. In the accidental messages. In the way they laugh a little too loud when someone mentions your name. In the sudden like on a photo from 5 months ago. In the way they check your story but say nothing at all. And let's break another lie right now. Emotional attachment doesn't always look like longing. Sometimes it looks like anger. Like passive-aggressive quotes, like pretending they don't care while still orbiting your life like a moon that never found a new planet to circle. They're not over it. They're reacting to a version of you that no longer needs their validation, and that rattles them more than they'll ever admit. Seneca once said, "You want to have a great soul, then begin by learning how to ignore small things." And my friends, that includes those games they play when they want your attention, but not your presence. You don't need to chase closure. You don't need to decode every breadcrumb. Your power lies in the fact that you've stopped giving energy to what no longer builds you. Let's also have a little fun with this, because hey, if they were really over it, they wouldn't be stalking your digital life like a detective on a caffeine binge. They wouldn't accidentally text you that song you both used to vibe to. That's not detachment. That's emotional curiosity dressed up in denial's clothing. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain. We're going to expose the subtle signs, the ones they think you won't catch. The ones that prove they're still emotionally wrapped up in the story, even if they ripped the last page out. And no, we're not here to feed your ego. We're here to sharpen your awareness. Because once you see these signs, you can finally stop wondering if it's all in your head. If you've ever sat in silence wondering if they've forgotten you, this is your answer. If you've ever felt the ghost of someone's presence in your feed, in your dreams, or in the echoes of old memories, stay with me. Because this video, it's not just about them. It's about you reclaiming your stillness, your clarity, your peace. Write it in the comments right now. I choose awareness. Let the world know you're no longer here to chase, you're here to observe. And stay locked in, because the truth is coming, one subtle sign at a time. Number 1, their silence is not empty, it's loud with emotion. Silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's the sound of a war being fought inside. They're quiet. No texts, no calls, no late-night messages, just silence. And you're probably sitting there wondering, did they really move on that easily? Was it that simple to forget me? But my friend, Let me break something wide open for you. Not all silence is created equal. Some silence is freedom. But other silence, that silence is a mask, a shield, a lie. Imagine a dam holding back a river. To the outside world, everything looks calm, still, perfectly contained. But beneath it, pressure, swirling emotion, undercurrents pulling hard against the structure. That's what their silence can be. Not the absence of emotion, but the place emotion hides when it doesn't know what to say. See, when someone is truly done, truly detached, their silence feels cold, clean, like an empty room with the lights off and the door already shut. But when they're still emotionally attached, their silence feels different. It lingers. It hums. It hangs in the air like humidity before a storm. You can feel it, can't you? That's because silence in these cases is not an ending, it's a suspension. A pause full of unsaid things, regret, ego, fear, hope, all swirling together while they try to convince themselves they don't care. But here's what most people miss. When someone is over you, they don't hesitate. They don't peek at your stories. They don't pause before replying. They don't ghost you and still hang around your digital life like a shadow that forgot to leave. And I know what you might be thinking. But what if they're just busy? What if they just need space? Sure, maybe. But real space feels clear, not cloudy. Real detachment doesn't play hide and seek with your emotions. This is where your fear comes in. The fear that their silence means you didn't matter, that they walked away without even flinching, that you were just a temporary feeling in their permanent journey. But that's not the truth. It's the lie fear tells you to keep you chasing, to keep you doubting your worth. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not true, do not say it. If it is not right, do not do it." And that doesn't just apply to actions, it applies to your reactions too. A Stoic soul doesn't beg for explanations. They observe, they reflect, they watch the silence and ask, is this the silence of peace? Or is this the silence of someone who's still not done feeling? And that's the power you must reclaim. The ability to sit in that silence without letting it break you. To recognize that if they were truly detached, they wouldn't linger. They wouldn't watch you from afar. They wouldn't suddenly like your old photo from 6 months ago when you just posted a picture smiling with someone else. That's not coincidence. That's emotional residue trying to make sense of your absence. That's their pride grappling with the fact that you didn't chase, that you stopped explaining, that you finally chose yourself. And that's where your growth lives. Not in getting a message from them, but in not needing one. In knowing that your value doesn't depend on their ability to see it today. Because real strength is built in the moments where you feel forgotten, but choose to rise anyway. So next time you hear nothing from them, listen closely. Not to their words, but to the energy that still circles. Ask yourself, does this silence feel final or does it feel conflicted? Because if it's the latter, you're not going crazy. You're seeing the truth beneath their performance. And that truth, that's your edge. Drop this in the comments right now. I trust the silence. Let them see it. Let yourself see it. Let the world know you're no longer afraid of quiet. Because you've learned that silence is where the deepest truths whisper. And we're just getting started. Stay with me, because the next sign is one they won't even realize they're showing. Number 2, they keep tabs on you quietly. Those who can't let go often pretend they've already moved on while watching you in silence. They may not talk to you. No calls, no messages, not a single "how are you" in weeks. But somehow, they're still there, lurking, watching, silent spectators in the life they once lived with you. And if you're paying attention, really paying attention, you'll catch the signs. The late-night views on your stories, The likes that come out of nowhere on photos you posted months ago. The sudden appearance in mutual circles, or a post that feels just a little too aligned with something you recently said. Let's be real. People don't accidentally end up in your digital space over and over again, especially not when they've made it a point to stay silent. What you're witnessing isn't detachment, it's emotional curiosity. It's longing that doesn't know how to speak. It's the kind of watching that doesn't want to be seen, but desperately wants to see you. Imagine a cat sitting on the windowsill, staring out into the yard it once roamed freely. It doesn't leap out the window. It doesn't meow or beg. It just watches, eyes fixed, alert. That's what their quiet observation is. Not detachment, not healing, but a soft, constant wondering. What are you doing now? Who are you becoming without me? Now I know, folks, it's easy to get pulled back in when you notice it. Your heart starts hoping. Maybe they're missing you. Maybe they're regretting. Maybe they're about to reach out. And maybe they are. But let me drop a hard truth here. You don't build your worth on maybe. You don't hand your peace over to shadows and story views. Because here's the lie. If they cared, they'd come back. But attachment isn't always bold. Sometimes it's cowardly. Sometimes it's afraid of rejection. Sometimes it wants to know you still feel something without having to risk saying it out loud. That's what these small gestures are. Not closure, not clarity, just breadcrumbs. Just emotional feelers sent into your orbit to see if your energy still bends toward them. Seneca once said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." And that applies to them. They're everywhere around your space, but nowhere in your life with intention. They're present, but not participating. And that, my friends, is where your power comes in. You don't react. You don't start dropping hints of your own. You don't suddenly post more selfies or start liking their stuff back to play the same game. Because you're not here to win them back. You're here to win yourself back. Let me ask you something. Why should your peace depend on who's watching? Why should your progress slow down because someone who left the path wants to stand at the edge and peek over the fence? You're not a show. You're not a chapter they can reread when they're bored. You're a story that kept going, and if they can't read it now, it's not your job to reprint it for them. Their quiet curiosity, that's not an invitation. It's a reflection of where they are, still processing, still unsure, still wondering if they let go of something too real. But you're not there anymore. You don't chase questions. You don't answer tests. You stay grounded. Because a person who watches from afar but refuses to walk toward you is making a choice. And your response is another choice, a Stoic choice. You choose you. You choose peace. You choose to keep building without pausing to see who's clapping. So when they check your story, let them. When they like an old picture, let them. When they send that quiet energy from a distance, don't flinch, don't analyze, don't even blink. Just stand in the power of knowing that your evolution doesn't need to be acknowledged to be real. You're not becoming for applause, you're becoming for freedom. Drop this in the comments right now. I rise without response. Show them, show yourself, show the world that the version of you they're watching now is the one who no longer waits to be seen. Because stillness isn't weakness, it's power. And the next sign, let's just say, it hits even harder. Stay with me. Number 3, their emotions still react to you. If they truly felt nothing, they wouldn't flinch at the mention of your name. So they're done, right? They've moved on. At least that's what they want the world to believe. But if you've been paying attention not to their words but their reactions, you've probably seen it. That flicker in their eyes when someone mentions you, that sudden change in tone, That energy shift so sharp you could cut glass with it. My friends, that's not detachment. That's emotional residue. That's what it looks like when someone's heart still reacts, even if their mouth keeps saying, "I'm over it." See, if they were truly indifferent, you wouldn't trigger anything. Your existence would be background noise, faint, distant, irrelevant. But when someone still tenses up at your name, when they suddenly go cold or passive-aggressive or overly defensive the moment you come up, that's not closure, that's conflict. That's an unresolved bond fighting to stay buried. Picture a still lake, beautiful, calm, untouched, but throw a stone into it and the ripples expose the truth. That's what your presence does. You throw a silent ripple into their world, and suddenly the surface can't hide what's underneath anymore. They might laugh it off, act nonchalant, or go the other way, start talking loud, over-explaining, mocking, or pretending they're completely unfazed. But let me tell you something, folks. Overcompensation is often the loudest proof of hidden emotion. You don't over-explain what you don't care about. You don't mock what you've truly let go of. You don't avoid or react to someone who no longer has a grip on your emotional center. Now, maybe you've seen it firsthand. Maybe a friend mentioned your name in a group setting and suddenly they froze. Maybe you posted something that showed you're moving forward, and minutes later they uploaded a vague quote that seemed a little too targeted. Maybe they get defensive if someone compares them to you. You're not imagining it. These are signs. These are the quiet echoes of emotional attachment. But here's the trap. This is where most people fall back in. They see that reaction and think, maybe they still care. Maybe there's still something left. And maybe there is. But caring doesn't mean readiness. Reaction doesn't mean respect. And just because their emotions flare doesn't mean they're prepared to step back into your life with clarity, consistency, or commitment. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That includes their emotions. Their reactions aren't your responsibility. Their conflict isn't your invitation. A Stoic doesn't react to reactivity. A Stoic notices, observes, but remains rooted. Let me be clear. When their emotions still react to you, it's not always about love. It's often about ego. About the fact that you didn't stay broken, that you didn't chase, that you're becoming someone they no longer have access to. And that realization, it's unsettling, because people don't expect you to rise. They expect you to wait, to waver, to crumble under their absence. But you didn't. You chose evolution. You chose clarity. You chose you. And now your presence shakes something in them, not because you're doing anything dramatic, but because you're no longer available for the emotional tug-of-war they thought they could control. And let's be honest, if they're still triggered, it means you still matter. But that doesn't mean you step back into the ring. That doesn't mean you soothe their discomfort or shrink your growth to make them more comfortable. You're not here to babysit their emotional journey. You're here to honor your own. So when you notice it, when their emotions twist, turn, and tremble at your name, smile within. Not with arrogance, but with awareness. Because now you know your peace is powerful, your detachment is working, and their reaction, that's proof they still haven't caught up to the part of the story where you stop waiting and start walking. Drop this in the comments right now. I lead with calm. Let it be a reminder to you, to them, to the world, that your response is no longer tied to their instability. You don't chase chaos. You don't match emotional turbulence. You are the contrast, the calm they never saw coming. And coming up next, we'll talk about something even more revealing when the past comes knocking disguised as casual conversation. Stay with me. Number 4, they bring up the past. when they didn't have to. If they mention a memory, they're not over the moment. It's still living rent-free in their heart. They say they've moved on, that they've healed, that what you had is behind them, boxed up and buried. But then they say something out of nowhere. Remember that night we drove for hours with no destination? Or, I heard that song you used to play on repeat, made me think of you. And suddenly, you're right back there. Not physically, not emotionally, but you feel the past pulling at you like a tide. And you know what? So do they. Here's the truth, my friends. People don't bring up memories they've made peace with. They don't revisit places in conversation that they've truly detached from. When someone mentions a specific moment you shared, especially one filled with laughter, intimacy, or emotional depth, they're not just reminiscing, they're reliving. It's emotional time travel. It's their subconscious trying to return to a feeling they haven't found anywhere else. Because let's be honest, when someone has genuinely moved on, their dialogue isn't tethered to the past. Their thoughts have shifted forward. But when they're still emotionally attached, the past becomes their playground. And you're still in it. Let's break the lie right here. Bringing up old memories is harmless. No, it's not. It's calculated. Even if they're not doing it with conscious intent, it's their unresolved emotions seeping through the cracks of casual conversation. It's their heart testing the waters without saying what it really wants to say. Do you still feel it too? Imagine this. Someone walking through a house they used to live in. They don't own it anymore, but they know every corner, every creaking floorboard. That's what those memories are to them. They're walking through what used to be home, checking if it still feels familiar, checking if you still feel familiar. And maybe in that moment you feel tempted to respond emotionally, to reflect, to open that door. But I need you to hear me on this. Just because someone misses the past doesn't mean they belong in your present. Nostalgia isn't love. Memory isn't a promise. And just because they felt something back then doesn't mean they're capable of holding it now. Seneca once said, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." And for you, that beginning was the moment you decided to stop anchoring yourself to a history that no longer serves your future. Now it's natural to wonder, why would they bring that up now? Why, after all this time, are they revisiting something you thought was long buried? Simple. Because they've realized something they didn't expect. That peace, that safety, that connection, they haven't found it again. And now they're hoping to find it in old scenes, with an old version of you. But you're not that version anymore. You've grown. You've evolved. You've learned that you don't live in memory lanes. You build highways forward. And while they're trying to find comfort in the echoes, you're walking in your truth, solid, grounded, stoic. So what do you do when they bring up the past? Do you engage? Do you dig through the emotional archives with them? No, my friend. You observe, you listen, but you don't lean, because your worth is no longer tied to the good times you shared. It's tied to the life you're building now, without needing their acknowledgement. And here's the thing. They didn't bring that memory up by accident. They chose it. Out of all the thousands of moments they could have mentioned, they picked that one that still holds emotional gravity. That's not coincidence. That's longing disguised as small talk. So don't be fooled by casual tones and polite laughter. Read between the words. Hear what their silence is actually screaming. Because when they bring up the past, they're not looking for a conversation. They're looking for confirmation. That the connection wasn't one-sided. That they still matter to you. That there's still a door left open. But the truth is, you've closed that door without slamming it. Drop this in the comments. I don't live in the past. Say it loud. Say it for yourself. Say it for every person trying to return to a version of you that no longer exists. And stay with me, because what's coming next, it's a sign even they can't hide from. Let's keep going. Number 5. They subtly compare others to you. When they compare, it's because a part of them is still holding on to what they once had with you. You're out of their life, or so they say. They've moved on, built new routines, maybe even found someone else to fill the space you used to occupy. But if you listen closely, if you catch the undertones in their words, you'll hear it, the quiet comparisons. They're nice, but not as calm as you. They don't get my weird jokes like you did. Or even more subtle, you always knew how to make me feel safe. Folks, when someone's still emotionally attached, they don't always say it directly. They reveal it sideways, through comparisons. And those comparisons? That's their heart peeking through the cracks, still holding on, still measuring, still reaching for a feeling they haven't been able to recreate. Think of it like this. They're walking through a new house, trying to settle in, but the walls don't feel the same. The light hits differently. The echoes sound hollow. And whether they say it or not, their mind keeps flashing back to your home, to how it used to feel, to the comfort and calm you brought. You became the benchmark, and now everyone else is just not quite it. And here's where we break the lie. The world will tell you if they're with someone else, they've moved on. But attachment doesn't always disappear just because someone new shows up. Sometimes the presence of another person makes the absence of you even louder. And that comparison, that's the echo of what they lost. That's the reflection of your value, still reverberating in their emotional space. Now let me say something hard. You didn't become unforgettable by accident. You became the standard because you were solid when everything else around them was unstable. You brought peace when they were surrounded by noise. You didn't beg to be seen. You were present, consistently, calmly. That kind of presence doesn't just disappear from someone's soul. It leaves an imprint. One they'll compare everything else to, even if they try to hide it. But this is where a lot of people get pulled back into old patterns. They hear the comparison and think, maybe they realize what they lost. Maybe they want me back. And maybe they do. But my friend, don't confuse comparison with readiness. Just because you're still on their mind doesn't mean they're ready to meet you where you've grown. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know the truth about you." That includes theirs. You don't need to be validated by their regrets. You don't need to measure your worth based on whether they recognize it now, because you always had it. The difference now, you finally believe it for yourself. Let them compare. Let them notice. Let them quietly stack others up against the memory of you. That's their journey. That's their emotional lesson. But you've already graduated from that chapter. You don't need to prove you're irreplaceable. You are, simply by being who you are. Quietly, consistently, without needing applause. And here's the part most people miss. You weren't meant to fit into their new life if it's built on shallow foundations. You were the soul in their storm, the calm in their chaos, the reason they knew what peace felt like in the first place. And when they compare, they're not just remembering you, they're remembering who they were with you. That version of themselves that felt seen, safe, understood. But don't let their memory become your emotional trap. Don't get pulled into conversations meant to test your openness or feed their nostalgia. Because you're not here to be someone's backup plan or what if. You're here to evolve, to rise, to build something that doesn't require comparison to prove its value. So the next time you sense it, that subtle compliment, that half-hearted praise of someone new, laced with undertones of you, smile. Not out of pride, but from clarity. Because their words just confirmed what you already knew. You were never average. You were impact. Drop this in the comments right now. I am the standard. Let it ring in your chest. Let it echo in your spirit. Let them see that you no longer need their recognition to feel whole. Because what's coming next? It's when their own actions start to reveal their emotional confusion, and you'll want to be ready for that. Stay with me. Number 6. They send mixed signals, hot then cold. When their signals change with the wind, it's not your fault. It's their storm. One moment, they're warm, soft in their tone, friendly in their energy, maybe even flirty. It catches you off guard. You think, wait, are they coming back? And then the very next day, cold, distant, like you never existed. Like that spark was nothing but a glitch in their system. You're left spinning, confused, questioning yourself, wondering if you imagined the whole thing. But let's cut through the noise, my friend. Mixed signals aren't confusion, they're emotional conflict. When someone's truly moved on, their energy is consistent. It doesn't need to sway back and forth because there's no internal tug-of-war. But when they're still emotionally attached, their behavior becomes unpredictable. One side of them wants to reach out. The other side is trying to maintain the story they told themselves, that they're over it. Mixed signals are the language of an unresolved heart. A heart that's torn between the comfort of your presence and the pride of their decisions. It's not that they don't know how they feel, it's that they're scared of what their feelings mean. Reaching out would mean vulnerability, consistency would mean commitment, so instead they dabble, they send a message, then disappear. They open the door, then slam it. And you're stuck trying to decode a pattern that was never about you to begin with. Imagine a light switch being flipped on and off repeatedly. That's what it feels like. Glimpses of warmth, then sudden shadows. It's not about clarity, it's about control. Not because they're manipulative, but because they're battling something within themselves. They miss you, but they're afraid to say it. They want to test the waters, but they're terrified of drowning. And here's the lie most people believe. If they're sending signals, it means they're still choosing me. No, my friend, signals are not choices. They're echoes. Echoes of emotion, fear, pride, regret, all colliding in real time. And if you're not grounded, those echoes can make you believe you still need to wait for them to decide. But a person grounded in Stoicism, a person who knows their value, doesn't wait for clarity from someone who's living in confusion. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. So when the hot and cold messages arrive, when the energy shifts without warning, your response isn't to match it, it's to rise above it. You don't mirror their inconsistency, you become the contrast, the steady flame that doesn't flicker just because someone else can't make up their mind. And let's be honest, it's tempting to lean in. When they show warmth, you want to believe the door is opening again. When they show distance, you feel the sting. But you must ask yourself this: am I okay if they never make up their mind? Can I still stay rooted in self-respect, even when their emotions swing like a pendulum? Because here's the real test. Not of their love, not of their interest, but of your stability. Mixed signals are not meant to be understood, they're meant to be observed. And how you handle them says everything about the man or woman you've become. You're not here to decode temporary energy. You're here to protect your permanent peace. And if someone doesn't know whether to let you in or keep you out, the decision becomes yours. Not theirs, yours. Because emotional inconsistency is exhausting. and you've outgrown the version of yourself who tolerates exhaustion just to feel seen. So the next time they come in warm, only to go cold again, remember this. That's not your cue to chase. That's your cue to stand still, to hold your ground, to remain unshaken, not because you don't feel anything, but because you finally know your worth isn't negotiable. Drop this in the comments. I don't chase confusion. Say it like you mean it. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that while their signals may flicker, your value never dims. And what's next? Oh, it's when they try to pull you back, not with honesty, but with emotional games. And you need to be ready for that too. Stay with me. Number 7. They try to trigger a reaction. If they can still get a reaction out of you, they still believe they have a piece of you. They won't say they miss you. They won't admit they think about you. No, folks, that would require vulnerability, a level of honesty they're not ready to face. So instead, they do something sneakier. They test the waters. They post that one picture they know will catch your eye. They drop a quote just vague enough to stir something in your chest. They casually flaunt someone new, hoping you'll flinch. They don't want peace. They want a pulse check. They want to know if they still matter. Let's get brutally honest here. People don't try to trigger reactions from things they've outgrown. You don't poke at a wound that's fully healed. You poke because deep down, you're hoping it still bleeds. And when they try to trigger you, it's not a random move. It's a deliberate attempt to see if they still have emotional access to you. Imagine it like fishing. They cast the line into your waters, hoping for even the slightest tug. A like, a comment, a view, an angry post back. Something, anything that says I'm still on your mind. And if you take the bait, boom. They feel powerful again, not because they love you, but because they controlled your emotions, at least for a moment. And I get it. It's hard not to react. When you see that cryptic story about being better off without certain people, and you just know it's about you. When they post a photo with someone new, but the smile looks a little too forced, you feel that sting, that flash of anger, that ache of confusion. But here's where you separate yourself from the crowd, my friend. Here's where you choose strength over stories. Because reacting, that's the easy way out. That's what they expect. That's what they're counting on. But staying calm, remaining composed, that's where your real power lives. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And that means you don't respond with ego. You don't retaliate. You don't validate their games by participating. You observe without attachment. You see without reacting. Because you've realized something they haven't yet. Your peace is not up for negotiation. They throw sparks hoping to start a fire. But you're water now, unshakable, untouchable. You don't fuel flames. You extinguish them by refusing to even flinch. And here's the deeper truth most won't tell you. Someone who truly moved on doesn't care whether you're watching or not. They're too busy living, too busy healing. But someone still tangled in emotional attachment? They need a sign. They need to know they're still in your bloodstream. That's why they poke. That's why they prod. But you, my friend, you've evolved past needing to answer those knocks. You don't perform for attention anymore. You don't chase validation through reactions. You stand tall, silent, smiling to yourself because you know your silence is speaking volumes louder than any comeback ever could. And trust me, nothing shakes them more than your stillness. When they throw bait and you don't bite. When they post provocations and you stay focused. When they try to trigger a reaction and you respond with absolute nothingness. That's when the real shift happens. That's when they realize they no longer own a single piece of your mind. Drop this in the comments right now. I protect my peace. Let's flood this space with the energy of people who no longer dance for breadcrumbs. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you've risen so high, not even their best bait can pull you back into their game. Stay with me, because up next, we're exposing one of the sneakiest signs of lingering emotional attachment, and it's the one they'll pretend was an accident. Let's keep going. Number 8, they reach out by mistake. A slip of the tongue is no accident. It's a truth escaping through a crack in the mask. It's late, you're minding your own business, focused on your growth, walking your path. And then ding, a message pops up. Oops, wrong person. Or a random meme sent your way. Or a question so basic that Google could have answered it in 2 seconds flat. And they'll swear it's nothing, a mistake, an accident, a casual coincidence. But my friend, let's not play games with ourselves here. People don't accidentally reach out to those they've truly detached from. Accidents like that? They're emotional smoke signals disguised as clumsy thumbs. A desperate little knock at the door to see, are you still there? Would you still answer? Imagine a moth fluttering around a porch light. It knows it shouldn't be there, that it's not logical, that it's already flown away once. But the glow keeps pulling it back. That's what's happening here. They're drawn back into your orbit, even if their pride won't let them walk through the front door. And folks, listen. This is where a lot of people crumble. They see that wrong text, that random check-in, and hope starts whispering lies. Maybe they miss me. Maybe this means they want to fix things. Maybe it's fate bringing us back together. But here's the hard truth, delivered with love. Fate doesn't wear the mask of accidental texts. If someone wants to be in your life, they'll be clear about it. They'll come through the front door, not sneak around the windows trying to peek in. Half efforts, almost mistakes, vague outreach. That's not clarity. That's fear trying to dress itself up as fate. And that fear, it's not your burden to heal. You see, when they reach out by mistake, what they're really doing is checking the temperature of your detachment. They want to know if they still have a thread to tug on, if your heart still jumps at their touch, if you're still emotionally available without them having to risk their own vulnerability. But a person rooted in Stoicism, a person who's done the work, doesn't fall for that. As Marcus Aurelius put it, waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one. You don't argue with mixed signals. You don't waste energy decoding their half-hearted gestures. You stay the course. And look, I get it. That text, that message, it's tempting. It feels good to think you're still in their mind, and maybe you are, but you don't rebuild bridges out of curiosity. You rebuild bridges out of clarity, and anything less? That's just setting yourself up to relive old wounds dressed in new excuses. So what do you do when they reach out by mistake? You respond, if you even choose to respond, from a place of calm indifference. No over-explaining, no fishing for more, no opening old doors just because someone knocked in the middle of the night. Because you know now, your peace isn't up for negotiation. Your worth doesn't hinge on someone else's confusion. You're not an option on a lonely night. You're not a comfort they can revisit when life gets quiet. You're building something permanent now, something sacred. And not everyone gets access to that energy just because they miss it. Let them feel the absence they created. Let them wonder if you even saw the message. Let them sit with the silence you used to fill so generously. Because growth, real growth, isn't measured by who reaches out. It's measured by how you respond or don't. Drop this in the comments. I respond with strength. Say it loud. Own it. Show yourself that the version of you who would have jumped at crumbs is gone. That today you only entertain what feeds your peace, your growth, your destiny. As we wrap this up, remember, true emotional detachment leaves no traces, but quiet attachment always reveals itself in subtle ways. Stay calm, stay grounded, and never chase confusion. If this resonated with you, smash that like button, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments below.